Hi, I'm Eleanor from Green American Magazine, and we're here with Bill Hutchins from Helicon Works Architecture Collaborative. He's an architect and he's also a Green Business Network member. And we're here at his house in Takoma Park, Maryland to talk about living in a green home and, in your case, building your own green home or designing
building and designing too.
Yes, and living in it. Yes. So we're here in the garden. We're going to start with the outdoor features. You can probably hear the little pond back here, and we're going to talk about. Can you kind of introduce your backyard for us? Thanks.
So, with the building, it's not just the building that's important, it's also the site and the land. And so we are a little bit downhill here, so we created a lot of water running from our neighbors onto our land, so we created a pond right here, and actually a little creek coming down, and the water comes in, and from the pond it overflows into the bog right here, which basically turned the soil into a sponge with hydrophilic plants. And then that overflows across into a rain garden and a few things like that. Then the driveway are pervious pavers with a trench drain going down the middle that all this kind of ends in. These pavers are set on sand, on gravel, and they slope down to a drain here, which ties in with that other drain. And then just, little things which are more artistic. My wife still doesn't believe me, but I created this big blank wall to capture shadows from these trees on the wall. She still will not believe that I actually tried to do that architecturally.
And I noticed your rain barrel over here.
We have rain barrels, and honestly, rain barrels they're kind of like a Band-Aid. They fill up quickly. You have to manage them a lot. A cistern we really want to put a cistern under here, but budget precluded that. This is our sleeping porch up there, and you can barely see the edge of the landscaping, the living roof that goes up on top of that part, as well as this is the outside part of what we call our bed bay, which you'll see inside in a minute. Which has a living roof on top of it, as well as salvage steel for its cladding. These walls are all straw bale construction, which you'll see on the inside, but this is the lime plaster. And then you put washes, color coats washes, to give it whatever color you want.
Great, yeah, let's go inside and
Where it's
look at
warm.
the straw bale.
Should we go in the center first?
Sure.
This is our farmhouse kitchen, the center of our home. Our primary entrance is over here, and the straw bale starts at this corner, and you can see here where the color of the earth and plaster which you put on the straw bales, which is sand and clay with, you can see the little flecks of chopped up straw, which gives it tensile strength. And it's a lot of fun, but it's highly labor intensive. You do 3 coats, kind of mix it up like making wine with water and stomp on it. So here we just clear coated it. Being in the mud, I mean, it's a bad joke, sorry, but in the mud room we left it more of a mud color. And then in the rest of the house, the straw bale goes all the way around the house to this corner over here. And then here we did color codes. On the kitchen and bathroom, we use actually lime plaster as well on the inside because it has an antifungal degree aspect to it, and it lasts longer to water. And then in the back, in our sitting room, did color coats of the plaster. This is over here is what's called a truth window. It's where you can actually see the straw bales there. And I've been living in this house 11 years, and it's hard for me to really comprehend that there's actually bales of straw in there. The ceiling, all those rafters they're all salvaged. And the diagonal boards actually came from an organ factory that went out of business. All the trim, all the other wood came from place called the Community Forklift in Washington, D.C., where it's all salvaged framing lumber, and we cut it down and planed it. And a lot of it is old, like old growth redwood that they used to build beautiful homes with.
For people who aren't familiar with straw bale construction, like where does the process come from? Like for people who are normally think of houses as being made of wood or bricks, like how do you come up with the idea to do straw bale and why?
Well, for me, it's everything has to start with beauty, and if it's not beautiful, no one's going to want to do it. And fortunately, it is a very beautiful way to build. You get these very thick walls. You can give, like you can show that corner maybe right here. It just has a life force to it. It's very alive. You know, a lot of the walls we live with and the food we eat just has no life force, and it's a really beautiful way to have that kind of sensuality and vitality. It's a waste product. We used to burn it till people figured that was a bad idea. It's a highly renewable resource, so it's kind of a plus. Everything is a plus about it. The baling goes really quickly, putting the bales up. The plastering is very slow. But you know, you're having fun, so who cares how long it takes?
And you were saying earlier this took a year and a half about to build?
Yes.
But normally would maybe take
about
a
a
year.
or so.
Yeah.
This is our corn stove. Do you want to see that?
Sure, yeah.
We heat our home by burning kernels of corn. You can see in here. And in Takoma Park, we have a corn co-op and a silo that a farmer grows all the corn organically, drives a biodiesel truck, brings it down to our silo. We drive we don't ride our bicycle. We drive our car over to it, pick up buckets and bring them. We go through about a 5-gallon bucket a day to heat our home. You know, on a really cold day, we go through more, but otherwise, that's about what it takes.
And so that's like the eco-friendly version of heating your house with oil, because corn is renewable and oil is not.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to, you know, for people who aren't maybe living in the greenest ways, maybe, or aren't familiar yet with. Yeah, go ahead.
All this wood, all that came from salvage sources, a variety of different salvage sources. And part of this is actually a walnut. We needed to take down a walnut tree. Wasn't a very big one, so we milled it, and some of this wood right here is from the walnut. This kind of collage is at the very end. I just took all the different pieces that we didn't know what to do with and created this kind of hearth mantle collage right there.
Can you tell me about the cabinets and how they have less waste than a normal cabinet would have?
The cabinet fronts, you take like a 1x6 piece of wood and you set it vertically, and you use what's called a bandsaw, and you cut this kind of curving pattern in it, and then you flip it open. So and then you use both halves, and you can even see how, like this piece here is mirrored by this piece where they were flipped open. So then you just open them up. It's surprisingly not that expensive. It takes a lot of sanding, and it's a little hard to sand all the curves. Again, we did a lot of the work. We did some of the work, and the sanding is something that we had the skill to do. So we did that. Want to talk about the railing?
Great, yeah.
So in the architectural collaborative I work with, like we have cabinet builders, we have natural builders, and we have steel fabricators, and their company name is Salvaging Creativity. And all this steel came from junkyards. They were based up in York, Pennsylvania. And we just kind of sketched the basic idea of what it could look like. And they went away and came back and brought this to us. And it's very beautiful.
Oh, I also want to call out the doors from the mudroom over here. We're in Takoma Park. I don't know if I said that before, but we're right outside DC, and you were telling us about how very DC your doors are over there.
The community forklift, again, we got the flooring as well as the doors, and the doors came from the Pentagon.
I thought that was a fun story. Yeah, I think community. We definitely work with Community Forklift. It might be a green business. Yeah, they are a green business member as well. So now we're coming into the new part of the, or not the new part of the house, the old part of the house.
The old part, which
Yeah.
we deconstructed, there was a second floor, which we took out, and all the flooring we used for flooring upstairs. And this room is really the counterpoint to the rest of the house. The rest of the house is about material and intimacy, and this is about something else, kind of dematerialize the walls. This glazing paint technique, again, it's a way for drywall to have more light force. I don't quite know how it does. I think it's the way it captures light. You paint the walls with a really bright white paint, and then you take paint base and water down and basically make watercolors and get your own pigments, and you just brush it on, and it's very much like watercolor. So
You were talking about how, well, we're in this room and there's no lights on, and there haven't been any lights on, I don't think, where we've been in the house. And can you talk about like kind of passive solar lighting?
We're in this village which has its own grid to it, in a particular way our home needed to sit on the site, and which is not ideal for passive solar. You want to be about 10 degrees off due east-west for optimum solar gain and a net energy gain. And so since we were still able to bring in, basically our home works like a sundial, where this is where the morning light comes, and as the sun moves around all day, you can see now that it's actually bright in the back part of the house because it's the afternoon. We're in the historic district. This is probably more big glass than I would do in a room like this, but we were required to keep these windows and these inefficient windows. They're very inefficient windows. The rest of the house, we also got what are called orphan windows, where they, if a builder something came in different or wrong, or the builder changed something, the distributor ends up stockpiling these windows. So we took our window schedule before we started framing our walls and found all these different windows, and we saved about $12,000 doing it that way. So every single window came from that source. The downside is they're not as efficient as you can get a window now. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I advocate this as a practice. $12,000, that's a lot of energy bills down the line, but you still don't want to waste energy. So it's a hard question. I mean, that's the thing about green building, is there's not any really right answers. And there's no green building. I mean, there's shades of green, and we're learning, technologies are catching up, and things like that. So, but for me, it's more than just kind of, like LEED is a beautiful system, but it's just kind of a point system. And I personally am more interested in just kind of, I think it's about consciousness. If we have a consciousness and a heart to honor the earth and each other, then that's what we'll do. So that's kind of the way we approach that.
Well, that was beautiful. And it reminds me that you are coming out with a book
Yes.
at some point in the nearest future.
In January.
In January, okay, very near future, called Dwelling.
It's called Dwelling, and the book is a poetic exploration of home as an internal image, our kind of deep, still, quiet center, and how spiritually we can create home through both the way we create and live in our home. So it starts off with these kind of poetic explorations. Like the key poem is a Rumi poem. It goes, there is a light green seed inside. You fill it with yourself or it dies. And caught in this curling energy, your hair. Whoever is calm and sensible is insane. And for me, dwelling is about how we fill our light green seed with ourself, our truest higher self. And that's what the book is about. It kind of has a poetic exploration of that, and then it goes into a variety of different ways to do this work, both from the inside out, through different poetic images that I offer that you can internalize, listen for some response, draw some clay and pastels and newsprint, and express that and bring up some deeper life-giving impulse, which then you can embody in the way that you live in your home. And the second half of that talks about how we can live in our homes. You know, the primary metaphor I work with is we tend to live in our buildings like powerboats, where we just unconsciously flip on switches, and we have systems that do this and do that, and pay no attention to the world around us, or hermetically sealed, or where it can be like a sailboat. It's a vessel that puts us in intimate relationship with the world around us, through our engagement, through our imagination, through seeing what's going on, through knowing our craft and how it can respond to the elements. So, and then the third part of the series of essays starts very esoteric about, for me, space within our heart. You know, two people, when you're in a relationship, you fall in love. The space is love. And you fall into that space together. And our physical spaces mirror those internal spaces. And that's what I try to do in our homes, is create different spaces for us to be in a relationship. And then it ends up being, you know, just the last essay is kind of progresses to being about building with an ecological consciousness. And like the first question for me is, do you really need to build? It's more about how we live. And I've talked myself out of a lot, or talked clients out of a lot of projects, just like bringing that question up and saying, you know, well, what do you really need here? You know, what will feed you more deeply? So that's what it's about.
Well, great. Thank you so much for hosting us today, and like teaching us about your home and about green architecture and living green. You can read. We're doing a whole issue about 21st century green home in the Green American magazine, so that will be out in the early spring. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.